So good morning, everybody. I think we are live. Are we live, Antoinette? Can you give me the
We are
thumbs up?
live.
We are wonderful. Okay, good afternoon. Actually, it's the afternoon, isn't it? Well, welcome to Entrepreneurs Mini Masterclass, and then we have the wonderful Joanne Wharam here this morning from Discover Insights. So we are absolutely thrilled to have you. I've worked with Joanne and helped her with some of her social media side of stuff, and her new business is absolutely mind-blowing, really, in terms of how it can really impact people's businesses and kind of move things forward from there. So we're not going to, it's a masterclass mini, so it's really quite short. What we're going to do this morning is a little dip and a little insight into this business for all our viewers to see. So I'm going to kick off and go straight to Antoinette. First question, off we go.
Brilliant. Boom, here we go. So Joanne, how did you start out as a business psychologist and why?
But how did I start out as a business psychologist? I never even intended to. It didn't even enter my head, never even knew it was a thing. But it was always, my career was always around people. So I was in customer service roles, team, everything was about teamwork and being supportive, motivation. And it gave me a real insight into cultures that I enjoyed working in, cultures that I didn't, and why. And then it kind of evolved into, I don't know, just that experience of moving around jobs. And I became, through one of my roles that was an admin role, but I came accredited to do disc profiling, and that really sort of started to channel my, I'll use this as a word, obsession, I think, if I'm being honest, into what makes us who we are, and how do we come together? How do the elements of our lives, our history, our personality come together to affect our results? And so it was very much a accidental role, but it started something that fired a series of events that led me to be where I am today, which is working with businesses around psychology and culture and teamwork.
Wonderful.
Brilliant. Which kind of leads me on to the next question, which is, what does a business psychologist actually do, and why on earth would people need one in their business?
Yeah, again, it's a term probably most people haven't heard of, and it's probably one that people go, oh God, that sounds a bit weird, and it's but actually there's so much of it around teamwork and leadership that link to psychology. So things like the organization culture, that's the biggest one for me, is how you are as a leader, the culture that you create within the organization is shaped by your core values, which also shapes your personality and the things that you strive for in your business. But in terms of teams as well, communication, when I can see Antoinette nodding, but when you're working with businesses, communication is one of those things that's so difficult to get right. But understanding personality and understanding the way that different people receive different messages and why they receive them differently and why they want them to be presented in a different way can really smooth that communication piece. And particularly where you've got differing types of people in an organization, sometimes it can cause some disharmony, I think is the polite way of putting it, in a business. So ironing through all of those issues that business owners face, particularly in a service-based arena, which is where I tend to spend a lot of my time, is your people are your biggest asset. So getting that communication piece right, getting their motivation and their mindset right, but also a lot of the work I do is with the one-to-one with the business owners, because their mindset is key to their business success. So understanding how to deal with people, understanding how to deal with things like increasing prices, or when talking to your clients, knowing when to say no and standing your ground. So everything sort of comes together in those three key areas, but there's lots of other small things. But in the interest of it, keeping it as a mini masterclass into how it can help, I think they're the three core areas really that I would suggest it can help in.
Brilliant. That's incredible. What would you say are the most common challenges in the businesses or individuals that you support?
Business-wise, it often starts with balance. So whether that is the balance of the skills in the team, the types of personalities in the team, the balance between working and not working, and that's part of the culture of any business, is not just the culture you create for your employees, but the boundaries that you set yourself. You know, even with the one-man band people, solopreneurs that I work with, it's about having that barrier. It's having that mindset to say, right, this is work time, this is home time, because particularly since COVID, a lot of business owners are working at home more and more often, and it's that distinction between, okay, now I'm going to close the laptop down and I'm not going to switch it back on at 8 o'clock when I've had my dinner and start again. So it's balance, and like I said, that balance of the types of clients, the types of team, you know, knowing when to be able to say no to people, having that confidence, being able to empower their teams to step up and do more, so that the business owner themselves can hopefully just take their foot off the gas pedal and get off that hamster wheel. But the other thing really from a business perspective is teamwork. So, you know, how do we bring together our employees and make them into a high performing team? Because we can all employ and recruit, but are we recruiting the right people? Do we know, again, how to bring them together in terms of communication, understanding each other, having that empathy and awareness that, you know, between themselves, but also to their client base as well, and well-being. I think well-being is a big thing, and it links into a lot of what I do with one-to-one clients, and that's about their own well-being, you know, whether they're in that rut of repeating patterns of behavior, whether they're having conflict issues in relationships, or thinking about their careers. They're, you know, they're at that point where do I go? What do I do next? What suits me? Why am I not feeling settled in anything? Because we all have those things that we're naturally drawn to, but are we doing the right things for the right people? But I think one-to-one wise, stress and anxiety, I think they're two big things for everybody, no matter who you are. How do we manage stress? So on my website, I've got a lovely analogy of a stress bucket, and it's about, we all have stress, and stress is, a certain level of stress is good for all of us, but what do we do in order to manage the flow into that stress bucket, and how do we manage the process of letting some of that surplus water out, so that we're not sort of running on too high a level of stress, because that's when it starts to affect our mental, emotional, physical well-being, and causes a lot of anxiety and things for a lot of people. So it's trying to work with those people to manage their stress and manage their over anxiety, their overthinking, their lack of confidence, lack of, you know, self-belief, self-worth, all of those areas. It all, although it's business psychology, it comes across all areas of life and all aspects of life, really. So there's lots of different ways that I work with people, but it's all about mindset, motivation, really, I think, and personality.
Joanne, I've got a lovely spare room. But do you want to? Dick.
That's what was so lovely when I met Joanne, to learn more about, you know, this business, you know, because yes, there's personality testing out there. We've probably experienced some elements of that within our professional roles and everything else. But what you've done on your knowledge of business, and then obviously your background in psychology and how you've brought that together, I think is really, really special and really, really unique. So, you know, do you want to explain a little bit about, you know, the 3 bits of, you know, what your services are and how that helps people?
Yeah, I'd love to, Lindsay. So yeah, I was very, when you said very unique, I think, yes, I think weird was probably what the psychologists, when I did my master's, were thinking, because I was studying developmental psychology, because it was about, for me, what makes us who we are. Where does that even start? And that formed, I'll do it in reverse almost, because that forms the core of who we are in terms of our personality, because of our attachment style. So that's a developmental psychology perspective that talks about our attachment style shaping our beliefs about ourselves, but also about other people. So it shapes our core values, but it shapes our beliefs around relationships and how trusting we can or can't be. So for me, personality starts right back with the attachment, and that's why I was doing developmental psychology. But it links into business, because it links then to our personality. So the second layer of personality that I look at with the testing that I've created is Enneagram. So that's much more about our emotional drivers. What are the coping strategies we've put in place to cope with life? What have we learned in our early experiences? And that keep us safe, that make us feel safe, because ultimately as humans, that's what ultimately we're looking for, is that safety and security, want to be loved and liked, and want to be in control of our own destiny. I think that's all we ever want, but we learn different coping strategies based on our core emotional driver. And then what that then does is it flows upwards to our personality. So things like DISC, Myers-Briggs, they look at personality from a surface level, from a behavioural perspective. Now, I've gone down the DISC profiling route, A, because I was already accredited, but B, because I find that so much simpler to understand and to apply in business than Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs has its place, but for me, it's far too complicated to try and get your head around. If I'm working with teams, I like to go in and train them on, okay, this is you, but this is how other people might see the world. And so if you've got to try and go across 16 different profiles, it becomes very complicated. So I use DISC because that's much simpler and more powerful to be able to help train teams and help individuals. So the way that Discover Insights comes together is it brings those 3 well-known tests together, but then not like most personality testing pages. You can go on, do the test, get the automatic report, etc. But with Discover Insights, it's hand created by a personality specialist, so that it's specific to that person. And also I offer coaching support. So whereas every other test page I've come across in my research says, buy this test, and oh, by the way, you can pay for a more in-depth report, and etc., etc. But I couldn't find anyone that was offering that coaching support to go, what does this all actually mean? Yes, I've got all this data, but what does it mean? How is it showing up in my life? Because the reports will talk in broad terms, but for you specifically, how is that showing up in your life? How is that holding you back? How is that helping you? And so actually being able to offer that coaching support was something I was really passionate to do, because the whole reason the business came about was my personal development journey. I came across these tools, I was introduced to them, and each bit was a stepping stone to me going, aha, that's why I behave this way, that's why I react this way, that's why I feel this way. And actually, once you understand that, you can start to look at coping mechanisms, or even just accepting and embracing, okay, this is me, I can't do that, that's fine, I can't, I'm no good at strategic awareness planning, spatial planning, can't do it, I've got no spatial awareness. It's a bit of a worry in a car, but I struggle with there's once and you go, okay, but that's just part of who I am. You don't feel that you're then trying to force yourself to be something you're not, and you feel that you fit in more and feel more understood, and so it all comes together under that personality umbrella. But actually, for me, it's about helping people be the best they can be. And it sounds really corny, and it's a strapline that's used a lot, but for me, that's ultimately what it's about, because I was given that gift, and now I want to help as many people as I can in the next 10 years before I start to retire to kind of get the same gifts that I've been given.
Oh, and that's why I wanted you here, both of us did, to come and explain, because it's such a valuable piece of work, that can, really help the individual understand, but your team and everything, and just go wide. And as you say, there's many reports out there that you can just download, but great. But it's actually having somebody to hold your hand and then implement that within your business, which is just absolutely next level. So yeah, well done. I love this stuff. I absolutely do. It's about empowering people, and that's what Antoinette and I love. So it's fundamental to that.
So Joanne, just another question. What would you say is your
I think we're going to do
skill, or we greatest skill?
I think we're going to do our surprise question next.
We're going to go straight into okay, but it's not a surprise. Well, so it's a surprise for all of us in a way. It's a discussion for the 3 of us. So if you could stop the world spinning for 24 hours, what would you do with that time? So I guess if you could press pause. Was this from Nick Nash, our nutritionist?
Yeah, our nutritionist last month.
Yeah. If you could press pause for 24 hours, what would you do? Oh, Lindsay, straight in. Go.
I go first, Joanne. Is that okay?
I will give me some time to think.
I'm going scuba diving. So I'm going to a desert island. I'm going to be 30 meters below the surface, breathing deep breaths on my air with my fish where I can't hear anybody else. And I'm just going to do that basically for the whole 24 hours and lay on a beach and drink cocktails in between that when I'm going back down again.
That might be a bit hard underwater to drink a cocktail, but
yeah. On the boat. I'll stay out at sea on the boat.
Yeah, I'm heading for the beach too. Also a cocktail moment. I'm not going to be 30 meters under the sea at all. I'm going to head to a beach. So I've got to think about the timing. So you've only got 24 hours, right? You've got to get there and back potentially. So
you're just taking it to another level. I've got to transport it to me. I'm there.
That's who I am.
I think you're just vaguely demonstrating your personalities here, ladies.
Yeah. Oh, totally. We're different. This is where you start to see the differences.
Yeah.
We're a good complement for each other. So I'm thinking probably North Africa. Morocco might be nice. Morocco. I'm heading to Morocco. And I'm going to find a lovely beach in Morocco, but I want to find a restaurant that's like almost at the end of the world that does sublime food. And I want like a really gourmet dining experience. I want to be in the sunset. That's me. And I want to sit and read and think, and pretty much by myself as well. I might actually, like Lindsay, you maybe could pop along for dinner.
Thanks.
She'll let you into that.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because actually my happy place is by the beach, is actually by the sea and listening, but particularly if it's a stormy sea. I think there's something about the power of the sea. How I would spend, if I could pause there for 24 hours, my brain would need much more time to, a bit like you, Antoinette, I need more detail, I need more structure. What do you mean by pausing the wheel for 24 hours and what are we going to be doing? But yeah, if I had 24 hours to do nothing else other than it would be by the sea, watching the waves roll in, and experiencing that. But to answer the what would I do, I think my brain's is wandering off now with lots of they'd be doing, what would that look like? So but for the purposes of keeping it short, I think by the sea 24 hours would be perfect.
Oh, that's interesting. We all want to go to the sea, so there's something there. Interesting. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful.
I've got another question now. So Joanne, are you a disc profile C by any chance?
I have C, but I am S, and I am S. Well, depends. What last time I did it was SIC, but I vary between SIC and SC depending on I think what's going on in my world. But the S is always the dominant one, regardless.
Can you tell what Lindsay or I might be? What our dominant one is?
I am Lindsay. I was going to say, put me on the spot, ladies. Why don't you? I would say Lindsay is probably more dominant because of her outgoing nature. And I would say you're probably it's a real twist between S and C with you, Antoinette, I think, but I don't know you quite as well as I do Lindsay, but if I was to push, I would say probably C, because you were asking about the what were the parameters and what was the structure and stuff. So that would be my, if I was pushed now, that would be my guess.
So my profile almost matches yours. I'm an SIC, right. But the C does come up quite interestingly.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, isn't it? That although it's not our dominant one, both of us go, we need that structure, and I think it's because of that S and that need for security that we need those ducks in a row and those highlights of the details. So well, kindred spirits, Antoinette. That's why we connected where we did.
So if you're listening to these lovely ladies and you've absolutely no idea what they're on about because you've no idea what a disc is, and I've done disc before, I've done it numerous times. We do it as part of our retreats, and I still never remember really, apart from I'm a bit extroverted and a bit loud and a bit.
A bit.
So if you don't don't know, then go and check out Joanne's website, which is discoverinsights.co.uk, where there's loads of lovely information in there, more about how Joanne helps people. And then, of course, you can go on and you can actually find out more and experience some of these tests for yourselves. So, yeah, feel free to go and do that. Well, it's been absolutely lovely to have you. Thank you, Joanne,
for inviting me.
Yeah, I suppose now we're off into the rest of our days. But yeah, thank you very much for your time, Antoinette. Lovely as always to see you.
You too.
And that's it from us today.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.